And so we have a picture here of a God who knows you, who says, I understand you. You're not a nobody. And we have a God who's pursuing you, who says, you are wanted. You're valuable. I mean, this is trite, but do you remember, this is probably happening like in kindergarten now, but back in my era many years ago, do you remember the very first time, and maybe it was like 5th or 6th grade or junior high, when someone of the opposite sex expressed some interest, and it went something like this, like 4th, 5th, 6th grade. Mary, who knows Jody, who knows Bobby, who knows Dick, told Fred to tell you that Shirley kind of likes you. Remember that? And then you would go to the lunch line, right? You go to the lunch line, and there she is, and you go, ooh. You remember that feeling? You're made to be wanted. Or I remember when I was always the skinny, small kid with not much brains, and so I always played football or basketball with kids 3, 4, 5 years older, and I was in your classic suburbs where, yard, driveway, yard, touchdowns are here, and we played tackle football. It was very stupid. I broke a lot of bones. But I wanted to be a part so badly, and I think these older guys saw that, they'd throw passes, and I would dive for them on the concrete, tackle guys on the concrete. It didn't matter. I just wanted to be a part. And so, they would choose up sides, and okay, da-da-da-da-da. Okay, Ingram, we can use you, last man, right? You're 11 and they're 15. And then I can still remember, maybe the first time, I'll take him. And there's still like 3 or 4 like big guys left. And some guy said, I'll take the skinny guy. Ingram, you're on our team. Me? I'm not the last. Me? Yeah. Can I tell you that little sense of, wow, that's how God feels about you. If he was choosing teams, he'd choose you. He's for you. He loves you. He understands you. He knows everything about you. Here's what's wild. He knows everything about you and still wants you. Really. The people that really know a lot about you, right? In fact, the reason that we pose, the reason we project, the reason we have these sort of social holograms that really try and let people know I'm better than, I'm more holy than, I'm kinder than, I'm caring than, I know so-and-so. We all do it. Because down deep in your heart and my heart, you feel like if someone saw all that you were, there's no way they could really like you, let alone want you. And God says, I love you. And you got to ask yourself, why? When Jesus wants people to understand the fatherhood of God, why does he have this picture of this father that goes out each day seeking this prodigal? Come back. And the moment he even starts this direction, the father runs and meets him. Why does the New Testament letters talk about the children of God as those that are chosen, holy, and dearly loved? Why would God feel that way about us? David gives us the answer in the very next section. He knows you. He's pursuing you. I love that because I need to be pursued because I run a lot. As long as I've known God, I still run. Here's why he loves you so much and why he wants to give you direction and why he wants to help you is that God made you. Think about something that you've made from scratch. Something that you've worked hard on, something that you take pride in, something you say, and whether it's a software program or a cabinet or a car that's restored or you create a song, something that you've made that you go, now that's my best stuff. How do you feel about it? God says, for you created, David speaking, for you, God, created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. My frame, literally my bones is the Hebrew word, or my skeleton, was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place, talking about the womb. When I was woven together in the depths of the earth, your eyes saw my unformed body, or literally my embryo. If you got that pen out, circle the word created. Circle the two words, knit me. Then go down a line and go, he made your works. Circle works. Next line, I was made. Woven together. God made you. And David is saying your innermost being, not just your body, your personality, your DNA, your preferences, not just your eye color, but how you process information, your gifts, your passions. It's not like your life is out here and then God decided to engage in some moment. Oh, I got a 10-year-old, I think I'll engage. Or, you're 23 years old, or you're 47 years old. No. Before all time and all eternity, in the womb, the word woven here is a picture of multicolors intricately woven together. You are his workmanship. He was a part of the early process in the womb. Which sperm and which egg would come together uniquely to make you, you. He was involved in the process. You are his masterpiece. Literally, the word, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, put a box around those. They're amazing Hebrew words. It's a picture of literally, are you ready for this? You are awesome in God's sight. You are the pinnacle. God began creation. It's good, it's good, it's good, it's good, it's good, it's good. And then he decided to make us human beings. Let us make mankind in our likeness. It is very good. You can think, you can feel, you can reason, you have self-awareness, you can set goals, you can create, you can change the course of families and communities and life. The very spirit of the living God as a follower of Christ lives inside of you. He knit you together. He made you, and here's what you need to get. You are awesome in God's sight. Literally magnificent, amazing. I had a teacher. I thought I was going to be a basketball coach, and I thought I was supposed to be a basketball coach at a major college. And by the way, this is sort of a good lesson. Sometimes God gives us desires to get us to point A, and then to get us to point B, and then to get us to point C. And what we thought is point C is what we're supposed to do, and he really just got us there to get us to point E, D, or F. You're on a journey. But God knows us, and intimately he knows our desires and our passions, and God knew my background. God knew it was coaches that really helped me become a man. I wanted to pass on what they gave me, and I thought, well, I can teach and I can coach, and boy, that's what I want to do because I really want to invest in young men. And so I went to graduate school at West Virginia University. I majored in sports psychology, so you had a number of psychology classes, but it was also then you had biomechanics, physiology, all the hard sciences. And I'll never forget my biomechanics physiology teacher in graduate school. And she had this skeleton, and it was on this, deal, hanging. And then she would come and talk about the human body and almost like put her arm around the skeleton. And she actually named it. I can't remember the name of the skeleton. But then she would talk about, do you understand? And then she would talk like a priestess of the human body. Do you understand what the endocrine system does? Do you understand that inside a cell what mitochondria does and how it stores energy? And are you aware that how the body heals itself? Do you understand that at the right time, as the cells are multiplying, there's built inside of them, and this one starts to build this system, then this system, this system. Do you understand? And she would go, and then she would talk about literally the human body as it's awesome. She said, do you understand that, we take it for granted that a knife comes and cuts here where you get scratched, and how the body self-heals on its own, how blood clots occur, when they occur, how they occur, why they occur. And then she would pull this bone out. This was a bone of someone many, many years ago before we could set bones. Do you understand when you have a compound fracture, that the body on its own, when the bone is being restored, instead of growing it all the side, all the healing, it'll add bone on this side as the body seeks to make the arm straight again, or the leg. And she would talk about the body like, wow. And I thought, you think the body's great? You should meet the one who made it. I mean, think of that. The one who made it. And you know what God says about you? You feel like a nobody? You can take other people's evaluation or you can take God's. He says you are awesome, you are precious, you are magnificent. See, the reason we get discouraged, remember, perception always determines response. You're living in a world like going to Santa Cruz. Remember, you know, the house that has all the mirrors, or during Halloween you can go and you get in front of one big mirror and go, oh, I weigh 900 pounds, right? Or you get into another mirror and go, ooh, I'm the skinniest guy in the whole world. Or you get into another mirror and, Mom, my head's this big and my body's this, right? You're living in a world where people say, if you have that, or if you look like that, or if you have this job, or if you ever go public, or if your kid gets on the traveling team, or, oh, you've got to be in shape, if you've got a hard body, if you got a purse that looks like this, you drive a car that has that decal. Mirror, 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 mirror. That makes you a someone. And you can spend your whole life chasing false mirrors. And a big part of the population never measures up, and they never hit the false mirrors, and they feel like a nobody. And then I've hung out with the people that have hit the false mirrors, and they're way more discouraged than most of us. Because it's like, wow, if I ever made it to the NFL, I made it. I'm empty. Boy, if I ever went public, I've done it twice. I've done 3 turnarounds. I have hundreds of millions of dollars. I got a family that's fractured. I got a kid that doesn't talk to me. I feel lonely. I'm depressed. I drink way too much wine. I take prescription drugs. And Chip, tell me more about this Jesus, because my life isn't working. That's the world we're living in. Here's the evaluation. The mirror. In fact, God calls this the mirror of his word. And God says, it doesn't matter what other people think. It doesn't matter what media says. It doesn't matter what culture says. Here's what he says. I made you. You're my Rembrandt. You're my masterpiece. You're my sculpture, David. I know you. I understand you. I'm pursuing you because I made you. And then he's going to go on to say, and I have a plan for you. I got a plan for you. I didn't just make you. I have a plan for you. But it requires that you get an accurate view of yourself. In fact, I married a woman who believed a lot of bad mirrors from her childhood, who believed a lot of bad mirrors about getting rejected and hurt and left and abandoned. And I watched her literally for 20 years write down on cards what was true about her, and she taught a little series called Precious in His Sight. I think we might have it up in the bookstore. But it was after 20 years. And I married a woman that, okay, I'm prejudiced, okay? I know she's smart. I know she's beautiful. She's an amazing mom. And she looked in the mirror every day and didn't like herself. And you know, when you don't like yourself, it's hard to receive love. And so you keep trying to prove you're okay some way, somehow. And I watched her write these things on little cards about Psalm 139 and who she is and how God made her. And I literally watched this flower bloom. And I want you to know, trying hard to get the right perspective of yourself will not work. Renewing your mind. It's like what you heard last week. I mean, how does a man lose his wife and 4 kids and come and stand before us genuinely after 10 years and say, God is good? When I watched the video, what I saw over and over was he was getting his perspective about himself, the future, his past, and his life from a God who says, I'm in control and I love you, and in a fallen world, bad things happen, but you're precious to me. Do you believe that about you? You're precious. You really are awesome from God's perspective because he made you. But that's not all. He says, I didn't make you just to be. You're not like something he wants to put on a mantle. He says, I got a plan for you. God has a plan for your life. David would go on to say, all the days ordained for me or planned out for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. How precious are your thoughts, O God? How vast is the sum of them? Were I to count them, speaking of God's thoughts about him, if I were to count them, they would outnumber the grains of sand. And then sort of this parenthetical, when I awake, I'm still with you. And he begins to hint at, in dark times, even if I died, when I awake, resurrection. You have a plan for this life. You have a plan forever and ever and ever. Now think of this. God says, all the days ordained for you. Now grammatically, this could mean he knows the day you're going to die. Of course, God is all-knowing. But probably better in the context, it's the idea of all the days ordained for you written in your book, the details and the plans and the purpose, he already knows. And what the Spirit of God is doing through people and his word is he has these plans for you that you're uniquely made for. That when you discover what they are, get aligned with people in community at this job, with these people, with this person, at this time, then what you've been dreaming about, you flourish. And you don't have to compare yourself with this person or that person. You don't have to look like them. You don't have to have as much or as little money. You don't have to drive a certain kind of car. You don't have to have a certain body type. Because what you begin to understand is, I'm doing what God made me to do, and the mirror I'm looking at is his mirror of me. And you know, the biggest issue in all of our relationships is our desperate insecurity. And our desperate insecurity causes us to pose, to manipulate, to manage, and to blame. And that's why if you go to any coffee shop and sit quietly and listen, most of the conversations are two people talking about something else or something that happened to them that is unfair and how bad it was. And they feel better telling one another. And that's sad. And so we sort of manage and diagnose and work through, you know, my husband doesn't really come through for me, or my wife isn't very affectionate, or my kids are doing this, and my boss is a jerk, and this is unfair, and that is unfair, as opposed to understanding you are a vital part of God's plan. You are a vital part of God's plan. He has a purpose for your life. He's a good God, and he has a good purpose. Now think of this. You know, I don't know about you, but I have 4 grown kids, and you know, their lives are very full. But when one of my kids texts me and says, "Hey, Dad, just thinking of you today," feels good. Yeah, just on that day, you know, they're thinking about me. Or what happened last week, someone actually, this is a very old-fashioned thing, but it was really kind of cool. Someone wrote out a note. It was on paper. And it said something really complimentary and very specific about me, and it was from someone I knew. And I read that. Then I read it again. I don't want to confess that I read it again, but I did. Why? And until we die, you know what you always struggle with? Does anyone really understand me? Does anyone ever really want me for me? Do I really have a purpose? I mean, and when you get a note from a person or a text from a kid, are you ready for this? Thousands of times each day, the all-knowing, all-powerful God of the universe is thinking about you. Thousands of times. You say, how is that? Because he's not like you. He can think thousands of times concurrently with 7 billion people and not extend one modicum of energy. He's God. That's how big, that's how high, that's how holy. The entire universe is a little thing. All the nations of the world, Isaiah says, it's like a tiny drop on the side of a bucket. He's a big God. He's a holy God. He's a powerful God. He's an all-knowing God. He's an ever-present God. But he's a personal, intimate God who has a plan for you, who has his hand upon you to guide you, who wants to hold you by the hand, who wants to align his purposes with your purposes. Here's the challenge. In a fallen, evil world, we all kind of want to go our own way. And our own way produces barriers and pain. And so David looks finally at the struggles of being understood and loved and wanted, but how difficult it is. And he says, God's world is warped with wickedness. I mean, he gets this sense of, wow, I am a somebody. I am going somewhere. But a prophet poured some oil and said, you're going to be the king. And for 10 years, he's hiding in caves and people trying to kill him. And he's thinking, I'm a nobody going nowhere. And then he saw this wickedness. He said, if only you would slay the wicked, O God. Away from me, you bloodthirsty men. They speak of you with evil intent. Your adversaries, they misuse your name. And then there's this kind of statement. He starts aligning. This is the warrior, king, David, psalmist, musician. And he looks at the world. In his world, it wasn't ISIS. In his world, it wasn't Boko Haram. In his world, it wasn't the sex trade. In his world, it wasn't abused kids. But it was all those kind of things happening. And he says, I hate those who hate you. It wasn't a statement of pride, it was a statement of zeal. I'm going to align my life with the purposes of God and the righteousness of God. He says, I hate those who hate you. Oh Lord, I abhor those who rise up against you. I have nothing to do but hatred for them. I count them as my enemies. Now, those are strong words and it's kind of abrupt, but he sees who God is and his purposes and his love. And you know what? I'm sure in his heart of hearts, he longs for people to repent and turn to Christ. But he also, like it's our day, man, I want people from ISIS. I want the people that are taking chainsaws and cutting off children's head. I want people that are putting a gun in 7 and 8-year-olds, and here's the option. You shoot these 3 people or we shoot you. And at 7 or 8, bam, bam, bam. What in the world is happening to the wickedness in our day? And David steps up and says, I'm aligning with you and I want to make a difference. It's his zeal and his loyalty to God. And he's aware evil is very, very real. And it's only those people who understand that they're loved, that they don't have to try and become a someone or chase some false mirror that make a difference. And then I love his honesty. The very last line is not about the wickedness out there, it's about also the wickedness in him. And so he prays, search me, O God, and know my heart. Remember how this psalm started? You search me and know me. God, he knows everything. But instead of running now, he goes, okay, God, search me and know my heart. Test me. And know my anxious thoughts. Literally, thoughts here, my misgivings. Where I'm off. See if there's any offensive way, or literally wicked way. The Hebrew word, see if there's any, literally it's the way of pain. Is there any way of pain? Am I giving you pain? Am I bringing me pain? Is there pain in my home? Is there pain in my work? Is there pain with my kids? Pain with my roommate? Show me my part. Evil's everywhere, even in me. And then he says, lead me in the everlasting way. And it goes right back to Jesus. You know, Jesus said there's a very narrow path, everlasting way, and there's a very broad one, way of pain. And often God uses when we're in the pain, someone abandons us, someone abuses us, we lose our job, cancer arrives at the door, a drunk driver takes out someone's dad, and we can go the way of pain, eating disorder, sexual addictions, workaholism, or we can go the narrow path and say, God, I want to find you. And God says, that's good because I've been looking for you. Welcome home.